The morning sun shone through the tall glass windows of Seoul National University. Ta Kim took a deep breath and gripped his old laptop bag tighter. Today was his first day at the famous Advanced Computing Lab. He had worked hard for this chance. Ta stood out in the crowded hallway. His dark skin made him different from the other students. His father was from Ghana, and his mother was Korean. He was used to people staring at him, but he never got used to how it made him feel. He pushed open the heavy glass door to the lab. Inside, bright lights shone on rows of new computers. About 20 students worked at these stations. They all looked up when he walked in. Tai heard whispers start right away. "That's him." "The new student," said a tall man named Han. He was a senior researcher at the lab. "I heard he was very smart," replied his friend June. Then June looked at Ta's laptop bag. The bag was old and had tape holding parts of it together. "But look at that old laptop. It's so cheap." Ta pretended not to hear them. He had dealt with this kind of talk before. People saw his dark skin and thought he didn't belong in a top tech school in Seoul. They thought he only got in because the school needed to look diverse. They didn't think he was smart enough to earn his spot. Professor Lee, a short man with gray hair, walked over to Ta with a smile. He was the head of the lab. "Welcome, Ta. We are happy to have you join our team. Your ideas about new ways to build computers were very interesting." "Thank you, Professor," Ta said with a small bow. "I am excited to start working." Professor Lee looked at Ta's old laptop bag. "You will need to use one of our lab computers," he said. "The work we do needs very powerful computers." "I would like to use my own laptop," Ta said. "It has special changes I made to it." Professor Lee looked doubtful, but nodded. "If you want, today I will show you around the lab. Tomorrow, we will have a meeting where you can share your first thoughts on the project." As Professor Lee walked away, Ta heard Han and Jun talking again. "Special changes. He's just too proud to admit he can't afford a better one." Ta found an empty desk and sat down. He took out his laptop. It didn't look impressive. The case was scratched. Black tape held some parts together. But what was inside was special. Very special. Ta turned on his laptop. The screen lit up with code that most people would not understand. He had 6 months to finish his work before someone else made the same discovery. 6 months to show everyone that he belonged here because of his brain, not because of his skin color. "Is that thing even going to work?" Han called out, making several other students laugh. Ta just smiled and kept typing. Let them laugh. They didn't know what he was creating. By lunchtime, Ta had set up his work area. He put a small plant on his desk and stuck a photo of his parents on the wall. The photo showed his tall, smiling Ghanaian father with his arm around his shorter Korean mother. They stood in front of their small electronics shop in Busan. Mina, one of the few women in the lab, stopped by his desk. She had kind eyes and didn't seem to care about his old laptop. "Don't mind Han and June," she said quietly. "They treat all new people this way." "Thanks," Ta said. "I'm used to it." "What are you working on?" Mina asked, looking at his screen. Ta quickly changed the display. "Just some basic coding," he said. Mina raised an eyebrow, but didn't push. "Well, if you need help finding anything, let me know." After she left, Ta went back to his real work. What he was doing had to stay secret. Not because he didn't trust the other students, but because what he was creating could change everything. 3 years ago, Ta had made a discovery in his parents' shop. He was fixing an old computer when he noticed something strange. Under certain conditions, the computer chip worked in a way that shouldn't be possible. Ta spent months testing his idea. He built a new kind of computer chip that used quantum physics in a way no one had tried before. Normal quantum computers needed extreme cold to work. They were huge and cost millions to build. But Ta found a way to make quantum computing work at room temperature in a small chip that could fit in a laptop. If he was right, his invention would change computing forever. It would make computers thousands of times faster and use much less power. But Tai needed to finish his work. He needed to prove it worked. And he needed the resources of this lab to do it, even if the other students looked down on him. In the afternoon, Professor Lee gave Tai a tour of the lab. They stopped at the quantum computing section, where huge machines sat in a special cooled room. "This is our pride," Professor Lee said. "The most advanced quantum computer in Korea." Ta looked at the massive machine. It took up an entire room and needed special cooling systems. His laptop could do what this giant machine did, and more. "It's impressive," Ta said politely. "Each one costs over $10 million, Han said, joining them. "Not exactly in the same league as your device." He looked at Ta's laptop with a smirk. "Not everything valuable looks expensive," Tae replied calmly. Han laughed. "In technology, that's exactly how it works. You get what you pay for." That evening, after everyone had left, Ta stayed late. He opened his laptop and removed the keyboard. Underneath was a complex system, unlike anything in any normal computer. Tiny crystals were arranged in a special pattern, connected by wires thinner than a human hair. This was his secret, the world's first room-temperature quantum processor. He had built it from parts he bought or salvaged. The total cost was less than $500, but its value was beyond measuring. Ta carefully checked each connection. Then he ran a test program. On the screen, numbers appeared showing the computer's speed. It was performing calculations that would take a normal computer days to complete. He heard a noise and quickly closed his laptop. Mina stood in the doorway with a surprised look. "You're here late," she said. "Just getting comfortable with the new space," Tae replied, trying to sound casual. Mina walked closer. "I saw the numbers on your screen," she said. "Those processing speeds, they're impossible on a laptop." Ta didn't know what to say. Had she seen too much? "Your secret is safe with me," Mina said with a small smile. "Whatever you're working on, it must be something special." Tai relaxed a little. "It is, but I'm not ready to share it yet." "Well, when you are ready, I'd love to hear about it," Mina said. "Just be careful around Han. He's smart, but he's also very competitive. He won't like it if you show him up." After Mina left, Tai sat alone in the quiet lab. The lights of Seoul sparkled through the window. He thought about his parents, who had worked hard their whole lives so he could get an education. He thought about all the people who had told him he didn't belong in the world of advanced technology. His laptop might look cheap. People might laugh at it. But inside was the future of computing. Soon, they wouldn't be laughing anymore. Tai packed up his things and headed to his small apartment near the university. Tomorrow would be another day of pretending, of hiding his work, of bearing the small insults. But soon, very soon, the world would see what he had created. And then everything would change. 3 weeks passed at Seoul National University. Ta Kim arrived early each morning and left late each night. He kept to himself and spoke little to others. He ate lunch alone, often working while he ate. The only person he sometimes talked to was Mina. The whispers about him and his old laptop didn't stop. If anything, they got worse. "He never connects to the university network," Han said one day, loud enough for others to hear. "What is he even doing here? Maybe he can't do the work. Or maybe he's hiding something." Joan added, "No one is that private unless they have something to hide." Mina, who sat nearby, looked up from her work. "Or maybe he just likes to work in his own way," she said. "Not everyone needs to show off their work all the time." Han and Joan rolled their eyes and walked away. Mina went back to her work, but she glanced at Ta with curiosity. Tai pretended not to hear any of this. He kept working on his laptop. Inside its worn case was his invention, what he called the Neural Quantum Integration System, or NQI. It used special carbon structures to create quantum effects at normal room temperature. This was something other scientists said was impossible. Normal quantum computers needed to be super cold, almost at 0 degrees. They were huge and needed special rooms. But Tae's system worked in a small laptop, and needed no special cooling. The secret was in how he arranged the carbon atoms. He used patterns like those in the human brain. These patterns helped keep the quantum state stable. No one else had tried this approach. That evening, as Tai was finishing his work, Professor Lee came to his desk. "Tai," Professor Lee said, "it's been 3 weeks, and I haven't seen any reports from you. The university pays for this research. We need to see what you're doing." Ta looked up nervously. "I understand, Professor. I've been working on something very different from what others are doing. I didn't want to disrupt the team." Professor Lee frowned. "This isn't a private lab, Ta. We share our work here. Tomorrow at the team meeting, I expect you to show us what you've been working on. If you don't, we may need to reconsider your place here." After Professor Lee left, Ta sat alone in the quiet lab. This was a problem. He wasn't ready to show his NQI system yet. It worked, but he was still fixing some issues. If he showed it too soon, someone might steal his idea before he could finish it. His phone buzzed. It was a message from Mina. "Don't let them push you too hard. Some people think there's only one way to do things, but the best ideas often come from new directions." Ta smiled. At least one person seemed to understand. That night, Ta couldn't sleep. He had to decide what to do. He could show a small part of his work, enough to satisfy Professor Lee without revealing his main invention, or he could refuse and risk losing his spot at the university. In the morning, Tai arrived with a plan. He would show some of his work on neural networks, which was impressive but not the revolutionary part of his invention. As he set up for his presentation, Han and Jun stood nearby, smirking. "Think that old laptop will even connect to the projector?" Han asked loudly. "Maybe he'll need to use paper and pencil instead," Jun laughed. Ta said nothing. He connected his laptop to the projector, and the screen came to life with complex diagrams and equations. The room fell silent. Professor Lee adjusted his glasses. "Please begin, Ta." "Thank you, Professor," Ta said. "For the past 3 weeks, I've been working on improving neural network efficiency. These networks are used in artificial intelligence. My approach uses a new mathematical model that reduces processing power needs by 40%. For the next 20 minutes, Tai explained his work. He showed test results that proved his method worked better than current approaches. He was careful to only show the neural network part of his research, not the quantum integration that made his system truly special. When he finished, there was silence. Then Professor Lee cleared his throat. "This is very impressive work, Ta. Your approach is unlike anything I've seen." Even Han and Jun looked surprised. They whispered to each other with puzzled expressions. After the meeting, Mina caught up with Ta in the hallway. "That was amazing," she said. "But I have a feeling you didn't show everything you're working on." Ta looked around to make sure no one was listening. "You're right. There's more, but I'm not ready to share it all yet." Mina nodded. "I understand, but be careful." Han was not happy to be shown up like that. He's been the star of the lab for 2 years. "I'll be careful," Ta promised. Over the next few weeks, things changed at the lab. People started to treat Ta with more respect. They still looked curiously at his old laptop, but the mocking comments mostly stopped. Even Professor Lee seemed to watch Ta with new interest. Only Han and Jun kept their distance, eyeing Ta with suspicion. One evening, Tai was running a complex test on his NQI system when Professor Lee made an announcement. "Attention, everyone. The International Computing Innovation Conference is coming up in 2 months. The university will send 2 teams to present their work. Next week, we will hold a competition to decide which projects go." The lab buzzed with excitement. This conference was a big deal. Many famous tech companies attended to find new ideas and talent. "This is a great chance," Mina said to Ta. "Are you going to enter?" Ta thought for a moment. His NQI system was almost ready. The conference would be the perfect place to show it to the world. But was he ready to reveal his secret work? Yes, he decided. I'm going to enter." That night, as Ty worked late, he didn't notice Han watching him from across the room. When Ty went to get coffee, Han snuck over to his desk and looked at his laptop. The screen was filled with code Han didn't understand. He reached for the keyboard, wanting to see more. Suddenly, the screen changed. A warning appeared. Unauthorized access detected. System lockdown activated. The laptop shut down immediately. Han jumped back just as Ty returned. "What are you doing at my desk?" Ty asked, his voice hard. Han tried to look innocent. "I was just passing by. Your laptop turned off by itself." "Stay away from my work," Ty said firmly. Han's face turned red. "If you're working in this lab, your work belongs to all of us. You can't keep secrets here." "My work is my own until I choose to share it," Tay replied. "And I will share it at the competition next week." Han left, but his angry look told Ta this wasn't over. For the next week, Ta worked harder than ever. He fixed the last problems with his NQI system. He created a demonstration that would show its power clearly. He was careful never to leave his laptop unattended. The day before the competition, Professor Lee called Tai to his office. "Tai, I'm curious about this project you're preparing," he said. "Han has raised concerns that you might be using unauthorized methods." "What do you mean, Professor?" Tai asked. "He suggests you might be cheating somehow, using pre-made code or stolen ideas." Professor Lee looked uncomfortable saying this. Todd felt anger rise inside him. "That's not true. My work is completely original. Tomorrow you'll see that." Professor Lee nodded. "I believe you, Ta. But the accusation has been made, so we will watch your demonstration carefully." As Ty left the office, he saw Han smirking in the hallway. This was Han's plan, to make people doubt Ta's work before they even saw it. That night, Ty called his parents. He told them about the competition and Han's accusations. "Don't worry about people like him," his father said. "Your work will speak for itself. And remember," his mother added, "you come from two strong cultures. You have the best of both in you." After the call, Ty opened his laptop one last time. He ran a final test on his NQI system. The results were perfect. Tomorrow, he would show the world what he had created. Tomorrow, no one would laugh at his cheap laptop again. The day of the competition arrived. The lab was full of people. Professors from other departments came to watch. Even some people from tech companies were there. Ty arrived early. He set up his old laptop at his desk and ran a final check. Everything was working perfectly. Today, he would show everyone what his cheap laptop could really do. Mina stalked by his desk. "Are you ready?" she asked. "I think so," Ta said. "A little nervous, but ready." "Good luck," Mina said with a smile. "Whatever you're going to show us, I know it will be amazing." Ta watched as other students set up their projects. Han and Jun had a big display for their quantum encryption system. They had charts and graphs showing how secure their system was. They looked confident. Professor Lee called everyone to attention. "Welcome to our internal competition. Each team will have 15 minutes to present. The top 2 projects will represent our university at the International Computing Innovation Conference next month." The presentations began. Each team showed interesting work, but nothing truly new. When Han and Jun presented their quantum encryption system, the audience was impressed. Their system was faster than current methods. "Any questions?" Han asked at the end of their presentation. "Yes," said one of the visiting professors. "How much computing power does your system need?" "It needs a quantum computer," Han admitted. "But as quantum computers become more common, our system will be widely used." The professor nodded, but Ty could see he wasn't fully satisfied. Quantum computers were still rare and expensive. Finally, it was Ta's turn. He walked to the front of the room, carrying his old laptop. Some people in the audience whispered and pointed at it. "Is he going to present with that?" Someone asked quietly. Ty set his laptop on the table and connected it to the room's main screen. He took a deep breath. My name is Ta Kim. For the past few months, I've been working on something new, something that many people said was impossible. Ta looked around the room. Everyone was watching him. Quantum computing is powerful, but has big problems. It needs extremely cold temperatures. The machines are huge and cost millions. Only big labs and companies can use them. Ta paused and touched his old laptop. What if quantum computing could work at normal room temperature? What if it could fit in a laptop? What if it cost hundreds, not millions? Han laughed loudly. That's impossible. The physics doesn't work that way. Professor Lee frowned at Han. Let Ta finish his presentation. Thank you, Ta said. I've created what I call neural quantum integration, or NQI. It uses patterns like those in the human brain to keep quantum states stable at room temperature. He opened his laptop. This old laptop that many of you laughed at contains the first working NQI system. Today, I'll show you what it can do. Ta connected his laptop to a testing system that would measure its performance. The system would run a standard test used to compare the world's fastest computers. This test normally takes hours on the university's best computer, Ta explained. Let's see how my laptop does. He pressed a button. Numbers started appearing on the screen. The audience watched in silence. Then gasps filled the room as they realized what they were seeing. The test was running incredibly fast. Calculations that should take hours were finishing in seconds. Professor Lee stepped forward, looking at the results with wide eyes. This can't be right. The testing system must be broken. It's not broken, Ta said. My NQI system is just that fast. Han pushed his way to the front. This is a trick. He's faking the results somehow. Feel free to check, Ta said calmly. Run any test you want. For the next hour, the professors tested Ta's laptop. They ran different programs. They checked all the connections. They looked inside the laptop as much as they could without damaging it. Everything showed the same result. Ta's laptop was performing quantum computing at room temperature, thousands of times faster than regular computers. How did you do this? Professor Lee finally asked, his voice filled with wonder. It started 3 years ago, Ta explained. I was fixing old computers in my parents' shop. I noticed something strange with a damaged chip. It was creating quantum effects when it shouldn't be able to. Ta pulled up diagrams on the screen. I found that certain arrangements of carbon atoms could maintain quantum states at room temperature if they were organized like neural networks. I built hundreds of test chips before I got it right. The room was completely silent now. Everyone was listening closely. The final breakthrough came when I realized the quantum states could be protected by creating a kind of shield using the neural network pattern. That's what makes NQI work. One of the visiting tech company representatives stepped forward. This changes everything if it's real. Computing, encryption, artificial intelligence, all of it. It's real, Professor Lee said. We've verified it ourselves today. The representative turned to Ta. Young man, can I ask why you kept your work hidden in such an ordinary-looking laptop? Ta smiled slightly, partly for security, but also because it proved a point. Great innovation doesn't always come in fancy packages. Sometimes the most revolutionary ideas come from unexpected places or from people others underestimate. He glanced at Han, who was staring at the test results, still not believing what he was seeing. Professor Lee cleared his throat. I think it's clear which project will represent our university at the conference. After the competition ended, people crowded around Ta. They had so many questions. Reporters who had come to cover the event wanted interviews. Tech company representatives wanted to talk about partnerships. Mina pushed through the crowd to reach Ta. That was amazing, she said. I knew you were working on something special, but this is world-changing. Thank you for believing in me, Ta said, even when you didn't know what I was doing. Later that evening, when most people had left, Professor Lee found Ta sitting alone in the lab. You could have told me what you were working on. Professor Lee said. I would have helped you. I needed to finish it myself, Tay replied. And honestly, I wasn't sure anyone would believe it was possible. Professor Lee nodded. Fair enough. But now, you'll need help. This technology is too important to develop alone. I know, Ta said. I'm ready for that now. We'll put together a team for you, Professor Lee said. The best people we have. Can I choose some of them? Tai asked. Of course, Professor Lee said. Who do you want? Mena, Ta said immediately. She's smart and sees things differently. That's what this project needs. Anyone else? Professor Lee asked. Tai thought for a moment, then surprised himself with his answer. Han, he said. He's smart too, even if he didn't believe in me. Professor Lee looked surprised. After how he treated you. Ta smiled. It's not about the past. It's about building the best future with this technology. And sometimes, the people who challenge you the most help you build the strongest ideas. As Professor Lee left, Ta looked at his old laptop, the one everyone had laughed at. Inside it was technology that would change the world. Sometimes, he thought, the greatest things come in the most ordinary packages. 1 month after the competition, Ta stood on a big stage in Tokyo. The International Computing Innovation Conference was the biggest tech event of the year. Thousands of people filled the room. Important people from big tech companies sat in the front rows. Tae's old laptop sat on a table on the stage. It was connected to large screens so everyone could see what it could do. Beside him stood Professor Lee and Mena. Even Han was there, helping with the presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, Ta began. My name is Ta Kim. Today I will show you something that will change computing forever. The room was quiet. Everyone had heard rumors about a breakthrough from Seoul National University. Now they would see if it was real. For years, quantum computing has needed extreme cold and huge machines, Ta said. My neural quantum integration system works at room temperature and fits in this laptop. He pointed to his old, worn laptop. Some people in the audience smiled, thinking this must be a joke. Let me show you what it can do, Ta said. For the next 30 minutes, Ta showed the power of his NQI system. He ran tests that proved his laptop was faster than the world's best supercomputers. He solved problems in seconds that normally took days. The audience watched in amazement. No one was smiling anymore. They knew they were seeing something revolutionary. How is this possible? Asked a famous tech leader from the front row. Tai explained his discovery in simple terms. He showed how he arranged carbon atoms in special patterns based on the human brain. He explained how these patterns protected quantum states at normal temperatures. When he finished, the room erupted in applause. People stood up, clapping loudly. Reporters rushed to take pictures. The tech world knew that everything had just changed. After the presentation, Tai was surrounded by people. Everyone wanted to talk to him. Tech company leaders offered him millions for his invention. Reporters asked for interviews. What will you do with this technology? One reporter asked. Tai thought for a moment. I want to make it available to everyone. Not just big companies with lots of money. But you could be very rich, the reporter said. I didn't create this to get rich, Tai replied. I created it to solve problems. Later that day, Tai sat in a quiet room with Professor Lee, Mena, and Han. They had just had a meeting with 5 major tech companies who all wanted to buy the NQI technology. What do you think? Professor Lee asked Ta. These are very good offers. Ta shook his head. If we sell to one company, they will control who can use this technology. I want it to be open to everyone. But how will we continue the research? Han asked. We need money for that. I have an idea, Ta said. We can start our own research center. We can license the technology to companies but keep control of it ourselves. That would take a lot of money, Professor Lee said. I think we can find it, Ta said confidently. The next day, Ta met with Dr. Park, the director of the Korean Advanced Institute of Science and Technology, KAIST. Dr. Park had been in the audience for Ta's presentation. "Your technology is amazing," Dr. Park said. "KAIST would like to help you develop it further." "What do you propose?" Ta asked. "We want to create a new research center focused on NQI technology," Dr. Park explained. "You would be the director. You could choose your own team. We would provide all the resources you need." "Would the research be open to everyone?" Ta asked. "Yes," Dr. Park said. "We would publish all findings. We would license the technology fairly to anyone who wants to use it." Ta smiled. "That sounds perfect." 6 months later, Ta stood in front of the new Neural Quantum Research Center in Seoul. The modern building gleamed in the sunlight. Inside, 50 researchers worked on developing NQI technology further. Mina was now the deputy director of the center. She had helped Ta build a team of diverse researchers from all over the world. Even Han worked there, heading the security applications team. After seeing what Ta's invention could do, Han had apologized for how he had treated Ta. "Your work changed my thinking," Han had admitted. "I judged you and your laptop by how they looked. I was wrong." Ta's parents were there for the official opening of the center. His tall Ghanaian father and his Korean mother stood proudly as Ta cut the ribbon. "We always knew you would do something special," his mother said, hugging him. "But even we didn't expect this," his father added with a laugh. Inside the center's main lobby, Ta's old laptop sat in a glass case. A sign next to it read, "The first neural quantum integration computer," a reminder that innovation can come from anywhere. Ta looked at his old laptop, the laptop that people had laughed at, the laptop that had changed the world. He remembered all the times people had judged him because of his skin color or his background, all the times they had underestimated him. Dr. Kim, a young researcher, called, interrupting his thoughts. "We have some new results to show you." Ta smiled and followed the researcher to the lab. The past was behind him. Now it was time to focus on the future. 1 year after the Tokyo conference, NQI computers were being built around the world. They were being used to find new medicines, to study climate change, to improve artificial intelligence, and to solve many other important problems. Ta's invention had made computing 1,000 times faster while using much less energy. It had opened doors to new discoveries in many fields. One evening, Ta was working late at the center when Mina brought him a news article. "Have you seen this?" she asked. Ta read the headline. "Ta Kim nominated for Nobel Prize in Physics." "Wow," Ta said quietly. "They're calling you the most important inventor of the century," Mina said with a smile. Ta shook his head. "The technology is what matters, not me." "Both matter," Mina said. "You showed the world that great ideas can come from unexpected places. You showed that we shouldn't judge people or things by how they look." Ta nodded. He thought about his journey. From the small electronics shop where his parents worked, to the lab where people had laughed at his old laptop, to now being nominated for a Nobel Prize. "What's next?" Mina asked. Ta smiled. "There's still so much to discover. This is just the beginning." As they walked through the research center, Ta saw teams of people working together. People from different countries, different backgrounds, all focused on pushing the boundaries of what was possible with NQI technology. This was his real achievement, Ta thought. Not just the technology itself, but creating a place where everyone's ideas were valued, no matter where they came from or what they looked like. Sometimes the most powerful ideas come from the places and the people that others overlook.